Okay. So before I get into today's topic, I wanted to take a minute to acknowledge some people because over the last couple of weeks, I watched something happen that I never tire of seeing. I always enjoy this. A lot of you know I ran a pre sale on the summer split round program, and people look forward to this split round program every year. And what happened wasn't just a sales event, it was a bunch of people who decided to jump in, right? Who made a decision about how they want their summers and beyond to go. And some of them have been thinking about it for months. That's the nice thing about a promotion like this. Some decided fast, and the people who did, I want to tell you about a few of them because this is fun. This is actually fun for me, and I hope it is for them as well, and for you to listen to. So, first of all, Dina. Dina's interesting. She has two kids. She works as a teacher, and the minute the school year ended, she jumped on this pre-sale. She couldn't wait to give herself this gift. All right. So, she knew that she would have time now, and she just jumped right on it. And she's down 12.8 pounds already in 12 days. And most of it is fat. I mean, she's doing really well. And for those of you who know this program, I'm seeing changes in her skin, right? Because she's becoming hydrated. And so the skin looks smoother and younger. And it's really great to see. So there'll be more to come on Dina. Keith is a young doctor. He works hard and he loves to travel. So every summer before he travels, he does a split round. And he took advantage also right away. I met with him. We did this thing where which we do is I met him along the highway at a rest stop to deliver it to him because it's on my way. So I delivered to him in person, and and he's getting going now, and he's going to enjoy his vacation so much more. Now Jane is already mid-program, and she's doing great, and she's super excited. She's actually doing it with her husband. And the moment that she heard about the pre-sale, she wanted in because she wants more of what she's accomplishing now. She's always been overweight, but she's committed to going all the way. And so she figured she knows she's doing it anyway. And she wanted to commit to it to save money and to have it secured. So she has her program in her pocket now. And by the way, Jane and Dina and someone else I'm going to be mentioning were very excited about the book promotion. They're getting an autographed copy of my book, Keeping It Off. All right, Mark. Mark has dealt with some serious chronic injury, and he's at a better place now. I don't want to say what it is. And by the way, I said injury, illness. I don't want to say what it is. That's his thing, and chances are you don't know him, but just in case. And he told me something that I sometimes think about, because he said even during his treatment, when otherwise he felt crappy, he felt his best always while doing this program. And so he wants to feel that way again. Then there's Paul. Paul's a finance guy, and he has a surgery coming up on his leg. And what he wanted to do was leg, I think singular. And what he wanted to do is use it strategically. So he'll lose weight and he'll get rid of inflammation before, he has the surgery. And then he'll do it again afterwards while he's rehabbing. And this makes great sense. The program is highly anti-inflammatory, and obviously getting weight off of your legs is a very good idea in this kind of a case. I think I could spill the beans here. This is a knee surgery that he's having a replacement. And so I think each pound that you have that's in excess feels like 5 pounds on your knee. So it's a very smart use of the program. Adrienne is a young attorney. She's from Texas. I have a lot of clients in Texas, about 24, and she lives there now. And she had a breakup recently, And so, I called this the heartbreak special for her. She's another one who's very excited about the book. Really thrilled. So she hasn't received everything yet, but she'll be getting it shortly. So I just wanted to give these updates. I want to tell you this before we get into our topic today, because what we're about to talk about, well, which has to do with fiber and gut health and how your body actually works, these are some of the foundational principles that underlie everything that is within our program. It's not glamorous, but it's what makes it work. It's one of the factors that makes it work. So let's discuss it, okay? It's called fibermaxxing. What is fibermaxxing? You've probably seen the term. It's one of these things that are trending on TikTok. And I hate things that trend on TikTok generally, right? Because it's more about the trend than it is about the thing. It's more about the trend than it is the reasoning for why people do the trend, right? People kind of get caught up in hacks and magic pills and things like that. But people have been documenting their efforts to load up on fiber-rich foods. And that's all fibermaxxing is. And what I want to say about it is that most trends aren't great. Most trends are more noise than they are signal. This one is signal, and I want to tell you why. So PepsiCo's CEO told financial analysts last year that fiber will be the next protein. All right, so it's the next thing that'll be in people's consciousness. And when people who sell you junk food start pivoting to fiber, you know something real is going on underneath the trend. But here's the thing, fiber's always been important. That's not new. That's not new science. What's new is that people are finally paying attention to it. And the numbers on how poorly we've been doing with fiber are sobering. Because it turns out that fewer than 1 in 10 American adults meets the recommended daily fiber intake. Most people only get about half of what they need. And the recommendation, just so you know, is 25 to 35 grams a day. And most Americans are getting somewhere around 10 to 15 grams of fiber. And that's not a small thing. That's not a minor gap. This is a foundational element of nutrition. And most people don't even know that it's a thing. They don't know that they should be getting fiber. They don't know that they're not getting fiber. Now, let me explain what fiber actually is, because I think most people have sort of a vague sense of it, but not the full picture. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate. But unlike other types of carbohydrates, your digestive enzymes cannot break it down. The chemicals responsible for breaking that food down in your gut, it doesn't work on fiber. So the fiber travels through your small intestine and it's mostly intact, and it arrives in your colon and it's still basically whole structurally. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because you would tend to think, okay, it's filler, right? It's not digestible. You would think that means it does nothing. But that's not true, because that means, in this case, that the human part of you doesn't digest it. But your gut bacteria do. And that's where most of the action is. And this is one of those crazy stories. I've talked about it. Other health professionals talk about this, but a lot of people have not heard of it. A lot of people have not heard of the Human Biome Project, where they studied people's guts to see what was in there. And it turns out that the bugs, the bacteria and the viruses and the other organisms, outnumbered the human cells about 100 to 1. So there's a lot more of them in us than there is us in us. And it's a mind-boggling thing, right? It's fascinating. But basically, there's what they call a symbiotic relationship. They help us and we help them live. And you see this in nature all the time. So we have all these bugs now. That's disgusting. Most people consider it disgusting, but it's just how things are. And there are two main kinds of fiber, and they do different things. So there's soluble fiber and there's insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber is called that because it dissolves in water. And it forms a gel-like substance in your gut, in your digestive tract. And that gel slows digestion down, which means food stays in your stomach longer. Blood sugar rises more gradually, and the fullness signal has time to arrive before you've already kind of overshot what you should be eating. Now, does that sound familiar to you? We talked about Hara Hachi Bu last week. If you haven't heard that, you should listen to it. You should look it up. But that's a method of eating whereby you eat to where you're 80% full. And one of the reasons it works is because it takes 20 minutes approximately to get the signal that you are full. So if you're eating only 80%, then after 20 minutes, your body will get that signal, as opposed if you eat 150% and you're not even aware that you're full or you're supposed to be full because that message hasn't gotten to your brain yet. So Fibermaxxing actually works with Hara Hachi Bu very well. Now, it also binds to cholesterol in the gut and it helps to carry it out. So it's very good for cholesterol. The sources of soluble fiber, some popular ones, are things like oats and beans and lentils and apples and citrus and barley. And some of you might be saying, well, wait, some of those foods aren't necessarily great for you. They have issues. And you would be 100% right. Because it turns out, for the most part, that nature doesn't always make perfect foods. It makes foods with certain qualities, and some of those qualities help you, and some of those qualities work against you. But those are good sources of soluble fiber. Insoluble fiber, on the other hand, doesn't dissolve. It adds bulk, right? We think about bulk, psyllium husks. That's a pretty common kind of fiber replacement. And because it adds bulk, it keeps things moving, hopefully, through your digestive tract. And it's what most people think about when they think about regularity. And the sources are things like whole grains and vegetables, nuts, the skins of many fruits and vegetables. All right, this is your insoluble fiber. It helps you go. And most plant foods have both types. And that is a reason why it's a good idea to eat a variety of plant foods. See, it just makes more sense than eating a limited amount, whereby you might not be getting all the fiber that you could, and the different types of fiber. Now, here's a piece that most people don't know, and it's a very important part of this conversation, because we've all heard of probiotics. And probiotics go back to what I was saying before. The popularity of probiotics is because it was discovered several years ago that we need these important gut bacteria. We need these bugs. Again, there are more of them than there are of us, and they help with digestion, and they help with other things as well. So probiotics are the live organisms. They are bacteria that you can introduce into your gut, like what's in yogurt or kefir or supplements, right? You're adding to the population when you take those. And if the population is depleted, which in many people it can be a good idea to take probiotics. But a prebiotic is actually food for the organisms that are already in your gut. That's feeding the population that you already have. And that's the importance of prebiotics. Those bugs need to be fed. And when you feed it, right, the prebiotics, your gut bacteria will ferment it. And so some of you are like, good, hey, I'm making beer. I'm making wine in my gut. How wonderful. If only you could get, tipsy off of it. But the fermentation process is a food source, and in and of itself has benefits. Because when the fiber reaches the colon and the gut bacteria ferment it, the process produces something else called short chain fatty acids. And these are fatty acids. These are, broken down foods and chemicals. And the main ones are called butyrate, propionate, and acetate. That's not what's important. It's not important that you know these or you memorize this. But what is important is that you realize that they're not waste products. They're very important signaling molecules. And they help to run a significant portion of your physiology. It helps to make your body run right. And very briefly, here's what they do in plain language. Butyrate, and a lot of people these days, they've heard of sodium butyrate, for example. It's a supplement. Butyrate is a primary fuel source for the cells lining your colon. And without it, the gut lining starts to degrade. And a healthy gut lining is what keeps bacteria and food particles and little proteins inside the gut and out of the bloodstream. Many of us have heard of leaky gut. Many of us suffer from leaky gut. And that's involved with autoimmune disease. So when it breaks down that gut lining, and it's only like one cell thick, you would think it would be more, then that's a significant driver of systemic inflammation throughout your body. That starts a fire in your body. And that fire could damage anything. Okay? Butyrate, super important. Again, part of the fermentation process when you eat prebiotics. Propionate travels to the liver and plays a central role in regulating your blood sugar and your cholesterol. And acetate actually enters the bloodstream, heads up towards your brain, where it signals satiety. It tells you that you're full. And it does it at the central level, right? It does it at the level of your brain, not just in your stomach. And that's an important distinction because the brain is where things register. So fiber is not just filling you up mechanically. That's only one of the things that it does, but it's also feeding the ecosystem that runs your digestion and your inflammation levels and your blood sugar. And if it's running your inflammation levels, it's affecting your immune system. And if it's running your blood sugar, it's affecting your hormone system and your brain's sense of when it's had enough. It's affecting your nervous system. Like, do you see how these little things add up? And that's why people are fibermaxing, and that's why they're seeing results. People, when it comes to nutrition, tend to be motivated by weight loss. And yes, fiber plays an important part of that, but it affects everything. And again, we talked about Hara Hachi Bu. And that's another reason why it's important, because you want your whole system to work with you instead of against you. So if you're fibermaxing, you're eating only till you're 80% full, then your body has a much better chance of functioning well. Now, there is a nuance here that I want to separate for you because, again, we talked about signal and noise with the trend. Fibermaxxing is a social media concept, and it has a flaw, at least one, right? The word maxing implies maximizing a number, right? Hit 35 grams, load up. But a lot of people think that more and more is better, right? So it's probably even more important to think about fiber diversity. Eat a wide variety of fiber-rich plants rather than just hitting a gram count. Different types of fiber will feed different species of bacteria. And if you have a diverse microbiome, remember, that's the population of bugs that are in your gut. It's drastically important for health and weight. Then you will have a more resilient and functional microbiome. And if you're eating just the same source of fiber every day, even if you're eating a lot, then you're just feeding the same bacteria species over and over, and the others get left behind. Also worth noting is the fact that too much fiber too fast can be hard on your digestive system. If you go from 10 grams a day to 35 overnight, you're probably going to feel it. So those bacteria need time to adjust. You want to ideally increase gradually. And the idea is not to obsess over a number. Eat a wider variety of real plant food, of real plants as food. The number and the increase will follow naturally. Okay, let's keep it simple. Here's the practical version. The best fiber sources are foods that you already know. Beans, lentils, oats, apples, pears, berries, broccoli, leafy greens, seeds. Real foods, not supplements. Supplements help. And a lot of people take supplements because they just don't think that they can get everything from food these days. And there is some evidence behind that. But one rule that'll work for you is simply this. Add a fiber-rich food to every meal. Not instead of what you're already eating in addition to it. Just start there. You can build a variety over time, but just have that in your consciousness. Every meal, I'm going to add a fiber source. And remember, most processed food has had the fiber stripped out. The manufacturing process does that. They remove it because it changes the texture. It changes the shelf life, i.e. shortens it. And also how it feels in your mouth. And these are the things that food companies think about. Remember, they're about profit. They're not about your health. Real food still has fiber. If you're eating real food consistently, you're already moving in the right direction. So the trend is called Fibermaxxing. The actual practice, what we're actually doing is eating like a human being. Eating like human beings are supposed to eat and like they did eat for, I don't know, a couple of 100,000 years until recently. One of these days, we'll have a conversation about how fast the world has changed and is changing and what that's doing to the human organism. I mention it sometimes. All right. So 90% of Americans are just not getting something that feeds their gut bacteria, that maintains their intestinal lining, that regulates their blood sugar, and tells their brain when it's full, when they're full. And then these same people sometimes wonder, why do I keep eating? Why do I not know when I'm full? There are reasons for these things, right? The mechanisms inside your body are off because the balance is off. There's something out of whack. You know, when it comes to health, when it comes to life in general, everything really boils down to a couple of simple rules. One is do more of the good things. Two is do less of the bad things. I mean, it's supposed to be that simple. Is it in practice? Well, there's a reason that I have a weight loss business. There's a reason that I struggle myself. It turns out it's hard to execute on things we know sometimes, but sometimes there are solutions that are so simple, we might as well just do them. And that's not a fad. That's just the basics. That's what the Knicks did to win the championship. Yes, I had to stick in a Knicks reference. So that's just a foundation that's been missing for a long time. And the degree to which we can put that foundation back in is the degree to which we have a chance. All right, so that's it for today. Contact me if you are interested in taking advantage of the split rounds. If you have any questions about Fibermaxxing or Hara Hachi Bu, which should be everyone's favorite word. Let's face it, it's a great word. And other than that, have a great week.